Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Our first coincidence miracle today is from someone who relates that they had a wonderful encounter with 2 of the Uconn students in our area. There are some Uconn students who have tremendous faith. They're part of a group of people on campus who meet and share their stories about miracles and share their faith. It's a group of students who practice their faith and read the Bible and talk about miracle stories, etc. It's a wonderful group of people. I've met them also, and they have exciting stories to share. So this person is telling us about 2 people that they encountered. The first person shared a story with them that their relative, they have a relative who is a nurse, and their relative who is a nurse saw some amazing things happen in the hospital. Many nurses have many miracle stories. If you have any nurse relatives, I'm sure you experience. Nurses are always seeing miracles in the hospital. But this nurse was relating how she had noticed that the wife used to come and sit beside a man who was in a coma. He was in a coma for quite a while in the hospital. And his wife used to come in and sit there for hours during the day, and she would recite the rosary. She could see her, and if you've seen people saying the rosary, they have beads in their hands, and they're prayer beads, and as they say each prayer, they roll to the next bead. So they keep counting their prayers to keep track of how many prayers they've said, because there's certain different kinds of words that they use on different kinds of beads. And so the nurse related how after a couple of days, she noticed that the man who was in a coma, he would also be moving his fingers as if he was rolling through the rosary beads as well when his wife was saying the rosary. So as the wife was saying the rosary, this man in a coma was actually coming back to life, and he was apparently mentally reciting the rosary in his mind, not with his lips, while she was saying the rosary, and you could see his fingers moving. And the nurse related how when the wife stopped praying, then the man also stopped moving his fingers as well. And she would see this every time the wife came in. She would see this happen, and the man would go back to this totally comatose state after the wife had left. So it's a beautiful story, a miraculous story that indicates the wonderment of God, because we've heard many stories, even on this radio show, of people who are in comas, who come out of comas temporarily, who even come back to life from comas and then go back into a coma after they came to life and talked with their loved ones before they passed away. So many wonderful miracle stories happen in hospitals, and many nurses have many of the stories. This person also told us about another Uconn student they were talking to at the same time, and this second student shared a story of they had some really close friends, apparently from grade school and high school, some close friends that they had lost touch with now that they had been in college for a few years. And they were inspired one day to call one of their friends they hadn't talked to in about 2 years. This was during the COVID, the initial 2 years of the COVID pandemic we were going through, and they hadn't spoken to this friend of theirs for a couple of years. So it came to their mind one day in prayer. They were inspired to call their friend. Didn't know why, but it was a positive feeling to just renew their friendship. And they had a sense that there might be something wrong. And so they went to the phone to pick up the phone and call their friend, and before they could dial, the phone rang. So the phone rang as they were attempting to use it, and lo and behold, it was their friend that they were going to call was now calling them, and they said that they have some things they would really appreciate some time to discuss, because these two people were close enough where they gave each other advice in the past, and this friend would like some advice. So it's a perfect coincidence miracle, because this college student, Uconn student, was inspired to call a friend while they were praying. So that's a clue that God was inspiring them. And then when they go to take the phone and start to dial it, the phone call comes in, which is another clue of perfect timing, which means that God had inspired her to do this thing perfectly orchestrated time-wise, so that you could see the coincidence of grabbing the phone. And then the person calling her is saying that she wanted to talk about and get some advice, which is the same feeling that she had in prayer to call this person because they were having some problem. So that's how these coincidence miracles work. We hear over and over by many people. They get inspired, they get ideas from God. That's why the word inspired is 2 words, incoming of the Spirit. And the word idea is 2 words, I plus Deo, and Deo is the Latin word for God. And so when you get an idea or an inspiration, a true idea, true inspiration, is really God talking to you. And this is the proof in this particular case, because the phone rang as she was going to use the phone. The person sharing this story with us relates to us that they spent about 20 minutes talking to these 2 Uconn students, and they heard many other things which they didn't share with us, but except the following. The person who shared the stories with us said they were really so impressed with both of these students because of the miracles they're experiencing in their life, their friendship with God. They have a close personal relationship with Jesus. And people who are Christians, tell us that they're able to have discussions with Jesus because at baptism they receive the Spirit of Christ. So again, we're not preaching religions, but I'm just trying to explain where Christians are coming from. Christians are supposed to be having regular conversations with Jesus all throughout the day. So this person relating the story to us is telling us they were very, very impressed with both of these students. And so as they were parting, the person writing to us said, to one of them, you really have so many wonderful stories, and I'm so impressed, you really should consider writing a book. And the person responded and said, wow, that's really pretty marvelous and miraculous, because I have just recently decided, and I've started already, to write a book. And apparently the student was majoring in philosophy and theology at the time as well. So another coincidence miracle, you see, the person is saying, I think you should write a book, which is God inspiring them to say that, because God wants the person who's actually going to write the book to know that someone is approving their intention, because they'd be delighted to read the book. That's what happened to me when I wrote my 2 books. I had enough people saying to me, Tony, you should write a book. And that's what encourages writers. So if you got some writer friends out there who should write books, you have to convince them. Not too many people feel good enough to write books without being encouraged by some other people. Our next coincidence miracle is from someone who's been a regular listener to our program, and they relate to us that they had a shipment that was due to them. On a Tuesday, and they heard about, many of our people share stories about praying for wisdom, asking God for wisdom and what to do. Before we make important decisions, ask God to inspire us. So they've been hearing that. So they thought, well, they would ask God to inspire them. Should they call and follow up and ask where the shipment is, because it had not arrived by Tuesday noon. And they were inspired to wait until Thursday noon. So this was on a Tuesday at noon. It was supposed to be there. But they were inspired to wait until Thursday noon. And apparently that was the deadline they could live with. After Thursday noon, they'd have to get some rush shipping done. So they waited until Thursday noon, and they say the items they were waiting for actually arrived very close to Thursday noon, almost precisely on time. So this is another story of someone who asked God for wisdom. They were inspired not to trouble the people and call and complain and get people stressed out, but just wait until Thursday noon. And that's what the person was inspired to do. Don't rock the boat. Don't cause stress needlessly. See if you wait till Thursday noon, and maybe you can avoid, giving them a lot of stress and anxiety. And so they did that, and they felt very blessed. They felt that they did God's will, and they were inspired to wait, and they avoided causing a lot of stress for some other people. Our next coincidence miracle is from a regular listener as well. They've heard some of our sharings in the past about people who form weekly sharing groups where friends get together once a week and they talk together among themselves about miracles they have been experiencing, and it causes people to grow in greater wisdom about the many miracles that do happen among many people. So hearing other people's miracle stories helps us all to grow closer to God and experience our own miracles. So they were inspired to form this group, and they wanted to get a confirmation from God, ask God for some wisdom. It's kind of like fleecing. We've discussed fleecing in the past, and you'll find it on our webpage. What fleecing is about. It's a way for you to make sure that God is inspiring you. So they were looking for a fleece, and they asked God to inspire them, and they were inspired to go and open the book He+I. That's He for God, He+I. That's the title of the book. They went to open the book He+I at random, and they tell us they opened volume 2 to an entry August 11th, 1949. August 11th, 1949 in volume 2 on page 180. And it confirmed what their inspiration was. It said that God wanted people to form these weekly sharings or period sharings, like monthly or daily or weekly, whatever, because God says where there are 2 or more gathered talking about me, 2 or more people talking about me, there I am in the midst of them. Besides getting that confirmation, opening the book at random, they said that when they put on the TV that night, they saw a Protestant minister saying the same thing on television, saying that people should gather together, share miracle stories, and grow in faith together. And so they had a confirmation from the television show at night, and they had the random book selection that also told them to do this. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.